The 969th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog. Underdog is hooking up new customers. Play just $5 and get $100 in bonus funds when you sign up with promo code MMASGPN.
Howdy ho, degenerinos. Welcome to episode 969. Nice. Of the MMA Gambling Podcast, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to everyone who thinks that's funny that the episode's 969, which is most of you viewers and listeners. Hopefully, I am the Dessert Warrior, Jeff Fox, fitting nickname for the season. That is Danny Gumby. We have left India finally, Gumby. We're off to somewhere in England. Where are we going? We are going to Newcastle, England. Shout out to Malcolm Bamford. That's his part of the world, from the footy podcast and the baseball podcast, and winner of our football pool last week. Anyhow, shout out to Malcolm. Cage Warriors 199. I have a feeling it's going to be a little higher level of competition than the Anthony Pettis India one we just broke down, right?
It is, but I got to go back to Mal winning for a second here, because the MMA Gambling Podcast has had a huge domination in those inter-office pools, but also it was hilarious the way he decided to troll everybody in our local Slack channel. The guy's from England and he beats a bunch of Americans. He just throws into the Slack channel like, man, this must be super embarrassing for you guys.
Yeah, so they've had 3 weeks. I've won 2 weeks. Canadian, no NFL up here. He's won from across the seas. The old guys, the old foreign guys coming through. That's us. The foreign invaders coming and taking over your sport. Let's talk Cage Wars. Good fight card, right?
Yeah, I absolutely love this fight card. Big reason why, obviously, I like anytime Cage Warriors throws a couple of title fights at the top. You got a vacant title here. You got a defending a title here. Both of those are awesome. But I think the thing I like even more is it's just like the lack of needing to do like super research. There's a lot of names on here that I've seen 100 times. I don't need to go look up and see how George Hardwick fights. I know how George Hardwick fights. I know how every Hardwick fights. I maybe have to go in and give myself a refresher if it's Harry or George Hardwick, but like I know how George Hardwick fights. I know how Sean Clancy fights. I know how Orlando Prins fights. So like, am I going to do the film on it anyway? Certainly. Like I always do the film on pretty much every fight I do. But like I don't have to as much like pay super close attention to some of these because I just like, I know the Sean Clancy's of the world and it makes things a lot easier and a lot more fun too.
I wish I had the memory like Gumby has. I have to remind myself often about fighters I've seen a billion times. So maybe it's age, maybe it's just Gumby as a higher IQ. Who's to say, right?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say higher IQ. I think you're selling yourself a little bit short there. But I think my knowledge is more. It's I guess practical for our job, but like not actually practical because like I won't remember somebody's name 30 seconds after they introduce themselves to me, but I will remember the name Tony Mustard and remember that he is a completely random British regional fighter that I've looked at his Tapology page before. So again, yeah, maybe not higher IQ, but better with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I never remember people's names either. And your other job, you have to remember people's names in too. So maybe that's it too. Who's to say? All right, before we dive into Cage Wars, a reminder: we have a sale going on right now. Just in time for the holidays. You can gear up for the holidays at the SGPN merch store. The perfect gift for the degen in your life. Promo code HOLIDAY for 25% off everything. Yes, even all the great MMA Gambling Podcast merch there. So check it out, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. All right, let's go over to Newcastle, England. Say hi to Malcolm, the Bamford family. Cage Warriors 199, Haque versus Leblond. Saturday, 1 p.m. start time. So we got a pay-per-view this week, right? So it won't run up against pay-per-view, which is good. Do you like the early pay-per-view times, by the way, or the numbered event times? Do you like the 9 p.m. start time for the main card, Gummy?
I love the early fight time of these Paramount Plus cards. I think the UFC is making the right kind of move, although probably forced by Paramount Plus, right? At the end of the day. I will say I would have liked it even an hour further. 8 o'clock would have been real nice, especially because then you're, maybe get out of there at like 11:30. So we're still going past midnight, but we're not going to have any of those like crazy 1 a.m. cards anymore. So I do appreciate the time change.
All right, back to Cage Warriors, back to Newcastle. The Virtue Arena, Newcastle, England. 14 fights on the card. 1 p.m. start time, UFC Fight Pass, which makes it easy as well. And as we hinted at, very good fight card. Not just with title fights, it's got a lot of fighters you will be familiar with throughout the card. Perhaps starting with his first fight. That is at 155 pounds. That would be lightweight Adam Cullen. He is from England. Orlando Wilson Prins, who we've talked about before. He's from the Netherlands. 3 5-minute rounds, 155. Excuse me. Prins, 5-5. I think we've been bad luck since we started talking about him. 1 knockout, 3 submissions. He's been knocked out twice. He's gone 2-5 in Cage Warriors. He's lost 3 straight. Before that, he won 2 straight. He's won 2 of 7. He's not won since November 2023. So yeah, we've been bad luck for this guy. Used to fight up at 145. Cullen, 9-3, 5 knockouts, 4 submissions. So he's finished every one. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. He owes his rounds. All those fights have taken place in Cage Warriors. 2-1 over his last 3, 3-3 over his last 6. Got submitted in his last bout. 8 years younger than Prince, 3 inches taller.
So for this one, I'm going to say Cullen winds up being the favorite here, but probably not by too much. Despite his kind of spotty record, Orlando Prins is somebody who's had like a lot of people on him over the years. Like a lot of people think he's really high. I mean, I was a huge supporter and continue to kind of be a huge supporter of Orlando Prins. He doesn't look like a 5-5 fighter in there, especially when you consider the level of competition he's fought and like how close he's been in a lot of those fights. So like, you know, I think the books will still recognize that he's like not a complete schlub at 5-5, but like, you know, the fact that he is 5-5 and has lost a few in a row, like I do think Cullen comes in here as the favorite. So we're gonna say like -170. And as much as I would have liked to continue being a backer of Orlando Prins, like I'm gonna go with Cullen on this one. You know, like if you watch Prins, like his biggest issue is just when like somebody can bring like a grinding pressure heavy style to him. You know, he's coming off that loss to like 40-year-old Andrew Fisher, who I mean, like that was pretty much his MO, right? Like Andrew Fisher brings the grind, and that's like kind of his best attribute, if you know, maybe the only really great attribute with Andrew Fisher. And then when you look at Cullen, like he can bring that too. Like he's got a nice 1-2. He's gritty, he's tough, he's hard to put away. You know, he came from behind in that Nonato Jr. fight, which, you know, shows that he's able to stick around even when somebody's close to putting him out. He is kind of hittable. I worry about that a little bit, but maybe not so much with Prince because he's not got like one hitter quitter power. But like, you know, I do think he gets hit kind of a lot. And when he does get stunned, because he's been stunned a couple of times, like it's kind of easy for his opponent to get after him grappling. So like I think maybe there's a path there for Prince, but it's probably not a big path, especially because like I said before, Cullen can bring that grind that like has been the Achilles heel of Prince all along. So I think between that and the fact that like, you know, he does seem to have some like judo hip toss too. Like I think that will probably keep him in top control too. So he doesn't really have to worry about all of the things that are threatening from Prince. Because Prince is, like I said before, his most threatening things are like when he can get his own grappling going or when he can strike from range. And I think Cullen should probably close both of those out by just like bringing some pressure and like, you know, having a solid judo base to keep his feet. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'll take Cullen probably south of -200.
Okie doke, lock it in. Cullen is the play. We're moving up to 155. Actually, we're staying on 155. George Staines, he's from England. Ioan Harris. It's probably not Ioan. He's from Wales, and it's spelled Ioan. How do you say his first name, Gumby?
No idea if it's Irish. Irish kills me.
Irish, Welsh. It's all crazy pronunciations. Yeah.
Yeah, who was that Irish woman I had on my other podcast? Oh, Neve Kinahan, which sounds like Steve. Neve sounds like Steve, but spelled Nimh, which is just brutal. Yeah, Neve Kinahan.
All right, we'll tell you about Saint Staines first. 7-0 with 2 submissions, 1-0 in Cage Warriors. Harris, 5-2, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's finished every one. He's been knocked out once. He owes his rounds. This is his Cage Warriors debut. 1-2 over his last 3. Submission win in his last bout. Regional champ, 1-0 as a pro grappler.
I'm expecting George Staines here to be a huge favorite. He's a guy who people are super high on, and for good reason, because, you know, not only has he fought like a tough level of competition in Cage Warriors, obviously we've seen him over in Octagon. He's another one of those guys I didn't really have to do too much film on, for kind of 2 reasons. Number one, I've seen him a bunch of times, and then number 2, he doesn't really have any like clear tendencies all the time. Like he's a guy who you don't really have to do research on him because he can fight anywhere. He's decent with his takedowns. He has nice back takes. He can box. He can work in the clinch. He can be gritty if he needs to. Like he's just like a guy who fights where his opponent least likes him to fight. And that's like kind of an admirable trait. And it's, why he's gotten as far as he has and beaten some like really high level dudes too. And, talking about Harris here, he's a decent boxer. He's definitely a touch slower than Staines. One of the things I don't like about him is I was watching one of his fights in Aries. I think he was fighting a Russian guy in that one. And in that fight, like he stuns him early because, like I said before, kind of quick hands, nice boxing. The guy clearly wanted to wrestle with him, and he touched him up on the feet, and then like inexplicably goes right to the grappling, like gets right to the clinch, pushes him up against the cage, and just basically gives him time to recover. He wasn't even really threatening with the takedown, just gave him time to recover. And then as soon as he was recovered, they separate, and he got jacked up with a punch. So like, we've got a guy in Staines who I just said is like maybe his best attribute is his fight IQ, the fact that he can fight people anywhere and he can get after it. And he's fighting a guy who I just watched have some of the worst fight IQ in Aries and ultimately lose a fight because of it. So, I think that makes Staines just like a nightmare matchup for this guy. And in addition to that, too, like even if Harris tried to, take the fight where he wanted to and came in with a good game plan, I kind of just think Staines is better than him everywhere, which is why you're going to see like a massive line, like negative 500. But even given that number, I wouldn't feel bad about throwing him into some parlay.
Lock in Saint Staines, sorry. Put him in the mid threes. All right, before we get to some more plays, let me tell you about Novig. We're brought to you by Novig. That's Novig, all one word. Novig is America's #1 sports prediction market. Novig, you're getting the best prices. They got reduced juice on bets. Novig is available in 35 plus states. Download the Novig app and get $50 when you spend $5 if you use our promo code SGPN. Get in on the action with Novig, promo code SGPN. Underdog is your home for pick'em entries where you can win up to 5,000 times your entry. Gumby, you have a play for the people.
All right, Tuesday night basketball. We got the Raptors. We got the Blazers. I'm going to take Brendan Ingram's over on his points. Right now, RJ Barrett's out, and it seems like Ingram's getting the bulk of the work. So despite the fact that he had a little bit of a rough game earlier in the week, he's still getting a lot of action. So give me the higher than on Brendan Ingram's points.
Beyond always got a brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5 and win and get $100 in bonus funds when you sign up with our code MMASGPN. I butchered the whole thing. So $5, you get $100 in bonus funds when you sign up with our code MMASGPN. The thought of the Raptors got me all flustered here, right?
Excited.
All excited, yes. Not really a fan, but it's I'm fine. It's fine with me when they win. I don't hate them like you hate your area teams. So
there are some area teams I don't hate. I don't hate the Red Sox.
Really?
Yeah, I'm all right with
and you
that.
like the Bruins, right?
I love the Bruins.
Ugh.
Don't mind the Red Sox. Think the Celtics suck, but don't hate them.
Okay.
Don't like the Patriots.
No one. Who does, though? Who does? All right. You probably like the next fight, though. It's 155 still. George Hardwick, Great Britain. Daniel Konrad from Switzerland. 3 5-minute rounds, 155. Konrad, Swiss Army knife. There you go. Obviously, he has to have that nickname. 7-2, 2 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's been submitted twice. He owes his rounds, definitely. 1-1 in Cage Warriors. He's won 5 of 6, including his last bout via submission. That was back in November 2024, so a little bit of a layoff here. Regional champ. He's fed at 170. 2015 Pro MMA debut. 2 inches Harlan. Hardwick. George Hardwick. 14-3, 6 knockouts, 3 submissions. Never been finished in a fight. 8-2 in Cage Warriors and the former champion. Lost win over his last 4. TKO win in his last bout. 0-1 in Contending Series because he lost to
Kareem El Sawadi.
Right. Good loss. 2-0 Bellator RIP. Used fight at 170. At least the Hardwicks are in different organizations now. It makes it a bit easier, right?
So everybody seems to love George Hardwick. Newcastle loves George Hardwick. The sports books love George Hardwick. London loves George Hardwick. Maybe I'm just not as sold on George Hardwick. Because like I see what's good about him, right? Like he's like his brother in that he brings that pressure and he brings that jab and he doesn't really wilt necessarily and like look, that's admirable all around, but I just see holes in his grappling and obviously like we saw in the Samuel Silva fight, he had a little bit of an issue with boxing late in that fight and physicality late in that fight. So like he's gonna be a massive favorite here. My guess is like negative 315, like a plus 275, 285 on Konrad. And I am gonna take a swing on Konrad here. I am gonna say that like look, there's a chance he just gets backed up and pieced up, but like he doesn't really love taking steps back. He's kind of a guy who will meet you in the middle and slug a little bit, but he's also like looking for takedowns and looking for body locks, and he's got a really nice like twisting body lock takedown. That's perhaps like the best part of his grappling game. And it usually lands him right in like a side control too, which makes it, a lot more work for these guys to get back to their feet afterwards. So I like that about him. And like his grappling is held up against very, very high level grapplers. Like, go back and watch his fight with Aiden Lee. Like he was in Aiden Lee's mount like 2 minutes into that fight, beating the heck out of him and ultimately takes him out of there. And on one hand, you could look at Aiden Lee's record and be like, oh, that's not all that impressive. But then look at who Aiden Lee has grappled with. Aiden Lee went in there and handled Damon Wilson grappling. He beat Master Giacomo with a rear naked choke in the first round. Like, this is a guy who's shown time and time again he can handle good grapplers and submit them. And what did he do? He like wilted under Daniel Konrad. So like obviously that's like a big feather in Daniel Conrad's cap. Looks like he can hold his own on the feet, maybe not necessarily against George Hardwick, but it's enough of like a grappling advantage and like stellar level grappling that makes me think that if you can get almost 3-1 money on him, why not? Let me take a stab on Daniel Conrad here.
All right, lock in Konrad as a big dog here, hopefully. All right, nothing but title fights the rest of the way. As I knock my table here, Cage Warriors interim welterweight championship. Why is it interim, Gumby?
This belt is currently being held up by Justin Burlinson, who won the Cage Warriors Championship, and then immediately he didn't leave the promotion, which I think is why it's interim. He went to Qatar, and just is like waiting out a fight there. Like he just basically went to go see if he could be a short notice fighter, or maybe try to bug Dana White or Mick Maynard or something like that, or Hunter Campbell. I don't actually know how well it went for him, but I did see a bunch on his social media that he was doing that. So I think Cage Warriors probably just said like, hey, if you're gonna fly out there and not be ready to fight, or I mean, I guess he really was ready to fight. Like he's trying to fight on a UFC card, but not ready to fight for us. Then we're just gonna like give a version of your belt away. So yeah, it's Justin Burlinson is the current champ.
Got it. All right. So we got an interim belt. Sean Clancy Jr. from Scotland, Melvin van Suijdam from the Netherlands. So this is basically our two families fighting, right? You have
Oh yeah, Vreeland's a Dutch name.
Yeah, Dutch name, and I my grandma's from Scotland, so there you go. It's a Fox, not Fox. She was Davis, but no, not Davis. She was Waters. But anyhow, it's a my family versus Gumby's. All right, battle. Then Suijdam, MVS, just go by his nickname, which is his initials. He's 15-7, 6 knockouts, 7 submissions, knocked out twice, submitted 3 times. Yeah, he owes rounds, I guess. This is his debut in Cage Warriors. That one's borderline. 1 and 2 over his last 3, 4 and 2 over his last 6. TKO win in his last belt. Multiple regional championships on his. Correct. Get our shirts. Yes, correct. Get our shirts, sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. Remember the code holiday at checkout. I used to fight at 185, 2011 Pro MMA debut. Clancy is the one. 7-0, 3 knockouts, 4 knockouts, 3 submissions. He owes his rounds for sure. 5-0 in Cage Warriors. Used to fight at 185, 15 years younger than MVS, an inch taller.
So for this one, I'm gonna say like Sean Clancy, maybe like -250 as a favorite here. MVS has got like a little bit of hype behind him due to the fact that he's coming off that knockout of Amari Diedrich, who is like a pretty good prospect, and then like Clancy not being like the champ proper, like this is for a vacant title, not like a defending title. Like if he was defending, that'd probably up the number a little bit. But like, he's from Cage Warriors, he's the more well-known commodity. So like he'll probably still be the favorite, but I think those other aspects sort of drag it down a little bit. So hopefully somewhere in the playable range, because I am taking Sean Clancy. I watched him at NVS because I wasn't super familiar with him. This is a guy who it's really annoying, but he kind of just spams the same right hand over and over again. He's got this like, right, it's but sort of like an overhand right, I would say. He throws this overhand right and he throws it over and over again. And you're like, there's the overhand right. And you're like, jab, jab, here it comes again, overhand right, jab, jab, here comes the overhand right. And like he was fighting Amari Diedrich, and when I was watching that fight, I was like, how is Amari not just like piecing him up on a counter like that? And then like he drops him and knocks him out with it. I was like, first of all, shocked because I rate Amari Diedrich's striking pretty highly. But then like I went back another fight and saw him fight that guy who was on the Ultimate Fighter, the Italian dude. And like in that fight, that guy did exactly what I thought he was going to. He like circled away from the right hand, circled away from the right hand, popped him with a counter, dropped him. So like that right hand has been like a blessing and a curse for MVS. And I think it's going to be a curse here against Clancy because Clancy, similarly to like the way that I talked about George Staines before, is a guy who has a very high level of fight IQ. If you watch one of his fights, you might be like, man, he is really tentative on the feet. And it just like, then at the end, you just realize he was fighting a power puncher and he was making sure to stay away from that power punch. Sometimes you're like, man, this guy just like does not want to grapple. And it's like, he just knows he's up against a jiu-jitsu specialist. And he came in with a really smart game plan and he sticks to that game plan really well. So like I have to imagine a guy who I've known to have the best game plans and to stay away from his opponent's strength so much is going to be able to avoid just like a simple right hand that gets thrown ad nauseum, right? Because that's like what we're seeing over and over from MVS is just like the same right hand, the same right hand, the same right hand. Sean Clancy is the perfect person to counter that. And then in addition to like he also has big takedowns. He lands right side control for the vast majority of them. He punishes you on top, but also like isn't so willing to go to the next position that he like gives up the positions he has. So like he's smart on the ground and he's punishing and he's gonna like do damage. So for me, MVS is probably gonna keep loading up that right hand. It's pretty much his only chance to win it. So if you can get Sean Clancy at a playable number, if he is at negative 250, I think there's some really great value there.
A masterful game plan we're being promised. Hopefully, Clancy's comes through. All right, before we get to our main event and lightning round, let's tell you about Rhythm, RITHMM. Rhythm is crushing in college football, NFL, and now just added the NBA. Rhythm is also giving away weekly cash prizes just for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets of the same type from any model you build, and you can win $1,000 American. Gumby, do you have a Rhythm play?
Sure, we talked about the Raptors and the Blazers earlier in the show. I'll take the Raptors laying the points against the Blazers. Look, the Blazers had a good run at the beginning. I don't think it was for real. It was a really nice thought, though. And even the banged up Raptors are probably going to beat them up. That is he a Greek guy? I'm not going to even try to say his name, but he's been putting up numbers too. No, he's a Georgian dude,
Yes.
right? Isn't he? Yeah, the Georgian dude. He's been a lot of fun to watch too. So he'll fill in nicely for RJ Barrett in this one, and they should cruise.
All right. Use promo code SGPN25. See if Rhythm agrees. You can download the Rhythm app for 25% off your first month with that code. So download Rhythm, RITHMM, promo code SGPN25. Main event for a real championship. Cage Warriors Flyweight Championship. Shajidul Haque, or how do you say his last name? Is it Haque?
Yeah, Haque.
Haque, yes. He's from England. He's a champ. Nicolas Leblond. He's from France. He's a challenger. 5-5-minute rounds. Leblond, 12-4, 3 knockouts, 5 submissions. He has never been finished in a fight. 6-2 in Cage Warriors. He's won 6 straight and 7 of 9. He's not lost since June of 2021. He's fed at 135, 2013 pro MMA debut. 4 years younger than Haque, an inch taller. Superman is the champ. 17-5, 5 knockouts. He's been knocked out once himself. 9-2 he's durable. 9-2 in Cage Warriors. He's the champ. 2 successful defenses under his belt. He's won 7 straight and 8 of 11. He's not lost since September 2020. He's got multiple region championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get our shirts, get our merch, sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. Remember, your checkout code is holiday. He's fed at 135, 2012 Pro MMA debut.
I'm going to say Haque, favorite here, but probably just barely kissing 200, maybe even a little bit underneath it. LeBlond's record obviously looks good. And then in addition to that, too, it seems like the books are just like waiting for Haque to drop the title. Like he's a 35-year-old regional level champion. I think they expect that has an expiration date. And of course it does, right? Like everybody's got an expiration date in MMA. But like the Juwani Scott line was way closer than I expected it to be. And I think that was just because Haque is old and they're kind of expecting his come down at some point in time. So I'm guessing like high 100s, maybe low 200s at the most. And I'm going to take Haque here. I was watching LeBlond's fight with Malone. Like my big issue there is he's got like really good footwork and you would think that would lead to good pressure. But in his case, he seemed really tentative and like really worried about the return punches. Like feints, he bit hard on. When his opponent did throw stuff, he moved not just out of range, but way out of range. And it really led to him like having issues with well, actually two different kinds of issues, having issues with his own range and then also having issues with his cardio. I think he like burned a lot of cardio that way because as the fight went on and on and on and on, you could tell he kind of was getting worn down. And remember, that's not even a 5 round fight. He's going to be in a 5 round fight this time. I think that makes things a lot worse. And then, on the other side, I do think Haque has like the right kind of style to beat Leblond. Because first of all, in that Giovanni Scott fight, he was backing up a lot early in that fight. A lot of his return strikes found their home, cashed him some rounds that way. And then in addition to that, too, like we've seen him go deep into fights. We've seen him go deep into fights against guys who are tough and who are grapplers and who can bring a style out of you that should tire you out. And Hake seems no worse for the wear in the fourth and fifth round as a result. So, I think he can do enough of like what Malone did, like bluffing LeBlanc back from his pressure. And then in addition to that, too, like he's got some decent grappling and probably will be the much fresher guy comes rounds 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to take Shaj Hake to retain in hopefully in the high 100s.
All right. He's got Haque, he's got Clancy, he has got Konrad, he has got Staines, he's got Cullen, and he's got a lightning round. Zap, bang, boom, pow.
Yeah, I got 2 lightning round picks for you. We're going to start here with Daniel Bainbridge. Daniel Bainbridge, 4-1 prospect. Really fun. He was 4-0. He actually dropped his last fight. Maybe that'll get his odds down in a place where we can feel a little bit better about him. Because like he is still like a hyper prospect, has a lot of promise. So Daniel Bainbridge is the first one. The next one I'm going to take is Milad Al-Hadi. Milad Al-Hadi, he's fighting Aiden Steven, who is a guy who I fade pretty often anyway. Not that I, dislike the guy, but I see holes in his game all the time. And he's going to be fighting a guy who's coming off a pretty nice win of his own. He beat Thomas Paul, who's a guy who was on Contender Series. Al-Hadi has got like big, fun kicks to all kinds of levels. He's pretty quick with them too. So, once again, that's Milad Al-Hadi and Daniel Bainbridge will be my 2 lightning round plays.
All right. You're all set for Cage Warriors. We'll be in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. We'll be on the old YouTube MMA Gambling Podcast. We'll be on Twitter, SGPN MMA, and at Gummy Vreeland and at Jeff Fox Writer, Instagram. Go to my Substack. You can enter my pick'em contest for this coming weekend's UFC pay-per-view at moneymma.substack.com. Gumby has another podcast called Top Turtle, who's being interviewed this week.
Yeah, on Top Turtle this week, which it is currently dropped, so you can listen to it right now. We got Myron Santos, who's fighting at UFC 323, which we'll be breaking down tomorrow. And then we got AJ Fry, who is going to be on the last Apex card of the year, making his UFC debut.
And of course, that's Top Turtle. Of course, sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Remember, holiday at checkout, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We'll be back tomorrow. Apparently, like we just said, there's a UFC pay-per-view. I better get prepared. Until tomorrow, I'll be JJF. That's me. DRV. I know your initials too. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.